Well, I'm hoping this works. Some of you guys just told me that the volume wasn't working. My phone was having some issues this morning, and I kind of think it's ironic because what I wanted to talk about today was whether or not you're focused on the problems or focused on the solutions. So welcome to Morning Motivation with Dr. K, where my number one goal is to give you a positive perspective. I think there is a lot changing for a lot of us right now. The world is in quite a state of flux right now, and so sometimes when we get so wrapped up in feeling sorry for ourselves or worrying about what could happen, we get hyper-focused on the problem and what could go wrong instead of being hyper-focused on what possible solutions exist right around the corner. And so I think it's kind of ironic that the day that I want to talk about problems versus solutions, I'm having a little bit of video and audio issues. But hey, Kevin, I hope you guys can hear me. So I just wanted to ask you guys, this week might be full of surprises. Yay! Hopefully everybody else can hear too. Thank you. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Wendy, I tend to get kind of, I don't know, like when I worry about something, like for example, I met up with one of my friends that works for my same company yesterday, and she told me that she heard through the grapevine that our boss had announced last week at the end of the week that there are still going to be more layoffs. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Mercy had posted a couple of weeks ago that there were going to be thousands of layoffs. And then last Tuesday or Wednesday, we lost, I don't know, somewhere around 10 people in our office. Hey, MJ. And so we thought that that was kind of it, but at the same time, the email said there will be thousands of layoffs between now and the end of July. And so we kind of knew that it wasn't over, but maybe hoped it was over. And so this morning I got to work and I had to do some thought work and some inner work because I didn't realize how stressed out that made me last week, knowing that people were likely going to be laid off and what that did to me and to my psyche, and just being stressed out about it. Good morning, Clark. Went to dinner with Clark and we talked a little bit about that, and just trusting that God is good all the time and that the universe is always conspiring for us. It's so much harder to do when things look like they might not go in a good direction, right? But the thing is that when we get hyper-focused on the problems, we lack the ability to see the solutions. So what I mean by that is when I am spending all of my time and my energy worrying about, well, if I get laid off, like how much money do I have in savings and how long will I be able to pay my bills? That's the direction that I go when I'm worried. But when I realize that God is bigger and that He's in control and He's going to provide for me, it helps my mind to open up to solutions like, okay, well, I've got some other venues that I can put some effort into. Like, for example, if you guys saw yesterday that my friend Mandy and I started a company this year called KM Aesthetics. And we were like, okay, well, we don't know what's going to happen with our jobs at Mercy with family practice. We both do family practice. And we're like, okay, well, we don't have any control over that besides just showing up and doing our best. So what we can do is we can really start to get the ball rolling on our aesthetics business, and we can sell skincare and just really focus on some solutions or how to make things better. But the problem is that when we're so hyper focused on feeling sorry for ourselves and everything that's going wrong, it doesn't allow our brains the capacity to think in a creative way. We just get so focused on worst case scenario and just stressing ourselves out, right? And so I would challenge you guys to be the kind of person that when something comes up, just like it did a minute ago when I tried to log in for morning motivation and the audio video stuff was having issues, it's like, okay, well, I can focus on that and be like, frustrated, sign off, have a bad day, whatever. Or you can be like, okay, what do I do? How do I fix this? And I think that's something that, like, in my profession, that's what we're taught to do. And I'm sure a lot of you guys too, anybody who's ever worked in like management or like retail or sales, it's like you are constantly going to be hit with things that like is a change of plans, but how you deal with it is everything. I mean, you could just sit there and cry and feel sorry for yourself. This isn't how I wanted it to go. Or you get up, you dust yourself off, and you say, okay, what do we do with this situation, And some of the greatest leaders I've ever worked for, the greatest managers I've ever worked for, it's like no matter how much we detoured from the original plan, nothing fazed them because they could always just roll with it. Just always find the next best thing. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Rebecca. Good morning, Kylie. Good morning, Rory. So I just want to ask you guys, when the ish hits the fan, right? When things don't go according to plan, when life throws you a curveball, do you get hyper focused on what's going wrong and sit and feel sorry for yourself, and then hopefully other people feel sorry for you? Or do you actively try to find solutions and find other ways to open up creativity in your life? You know, like I was just talking about, I don't know what's going to happen with my job necessarily, but I'm trying to find other ways to bring in revenue, like through my aesthetics business and through life coaching. And I'm trying to get creative. I'm trying to figure out how to do a podcast, like how to make my morning motivation into an actual like iTunes podcast, which it seemed pretty straightforward when I Googled it. And it's not as straightforward as I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. I'll figure it out if it's meant to be. So obviously for pretty much all of us, like nothing's really going according to like plan, right? I'm pretty sure all of us have kind of had a little bit of like a curve in the road, right? But how are you dealing with that? Are you sitting and feeling sorry for yourself, or buffering, drinking too much alcohol, spending too much money shopping? Like, are you doing the vices and just being like, ugh, when is this going to end? And just waiting for like all the bad stuff to finally go away? Or are you trying to see how this might actually benefit you? Are you trying to see how you could actually become prosperous in a time that seems really difficult? Thank you, Rory. Same to you. Yeah, Darren, it's like, you know, solution-minded instead of problem-minded. And I promise you that in every corner of your life, that's going to serve you. Even like if you're a parent, like with your kids or whatever, I've been really trying to challenge myself that in the times where I get really like frustrated and I lose my patience, to be like, okay, let's try to see how this can turn into something good, you know, and challenge yourself. It's not the easiest thing to do, but are you focused on the problem, or are you focused on the possibility of solutions? Good morning, George. Good morning, Mr. Kumar. Thank you. All right, friends. Put all the uncomfortable things in God's hands and know it's going to be a golden day. And you know what's interesting about that, Mark, is that it's so easy for me to say that when things aren't hard for me. When things aren't hard, it's really easy for me to be like, the universe always conspires for me and God's always got my back. And then when something really hard hits me, it's not my first thought. And I kind of almost get to the point where I'm like, wow, you know what, Kristen, like, of all these years, like God has never let you down. So why is your default to go into a place where you don't trust and where you worry, right? And it's an interesting question, you know, but once you recognize that, you do have the ability to turn it around. When you recognize that you're in a scary place and lacking faith, well then, you know, I know that faith isn't necessarily something you can will yourself to do, but once you recognize the lack of it, it's a lot easier to say, wait a minute, I've been through hard things before. I can do hard things. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk to a girl that went to my medical school shortly after I did, and we were just talking about how you go through so many hard things and you go through this journey, and very rarely do you stop and look back and just see how well it all turned out and see all the provisions and all the things that God got you through. And I think sometimes it's really important to do that, to look at your life. Like, and that's one of the reasons that I journal. That's one of the reasons that I have so many journals. One of my journals is literally just to write down, like, every time financially something really good happens to me, whether like I have a coupon for something, somebody sends me money, whatever, like any way that financially I feel like God is showing up for me. And the reason that I do that is because it's too easy for me to forget. It's too easy for me to have good things happen to me and to forget, like a week later when I'm like looking at my bank statement going, oh my gosh, it's like, okay, wait, remember all the things God's done for you. Go back and look at it. You have proof. You have proof that he's going to take care of you. So stop forgetting that. Mark, it's human. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a human nature, but we can get better, right? Darren says, some of my teachings remind me to stop, drop, and roll. Oh, yeah. Okay. think about the situation before you make a fast reaction, theoretically, of course. Yeah, hopefully we're not talking fires, literally, right, Darren? Hey, Tandy. So I just want to challenge you guys in the little things and in the big things today. When something does not go according to plan, when something irritates you, I would challenge you to stop and first remind yourself that in all things, your entire life, even the hard things, just to be able to see God's hand in that and to see that you've never been let down, you've never fallen off the face of the earth, and it's not going to start now. And start to think of solutions. Start to think of how this thing that kind of stinks or doesn't feel so great could actually be in your favor. So, are you problem-oriented or are you solution-oriented? In every corner of your life, I promise you, you are held, you are secure. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry even if you've lost your job, which I know a lot of you guys have. And my heart goes out to you. I can only imagine how difficult it is, but I want to remind you that at the end of the day, God has not forgotten about you. He didn't fall asleep at the wheel, okay? Sometimes you just have to stand and stop. Yeah. So Mark, that's something that I'm writing an affirmation every day. Like, I am good at receiving and being still. We've talked about that before. Just be still and know that He is God, and that it doesn't require suffering and sacrifice to live a good life. Pretty cool. All right, friends. Well, I thank you guys for joining me for this episode of Morning Motivation with Dr. K. I hope everybody has a really good morning, a really good day, a really good Tuesday, and I look forward to joining you guys again tomorrow. I'm going to try, Mark suggested that I play some of my originals on the piano, so I might try to do that this afternoon depending on how the day unfolds. And I love y'all to the moon. I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for joining me. Bye, guys.